Good afternoon. This is Jackie from Jack Gets Lost Down a Book Hole. And for today's video, I thought I would talk about my experience at Supercon a little bit and show you what I got from there. So that's why last week I only posted one video last week. Because, my best friend Terry came from Florida for the convention because she is my convention go-to, which, by the way, I know people say that you can meet people at conventions and make friends when you get there, but I feel like for certain people, especially if you're a shy person, I feel like it's good to have a buddy, like someone who's already a friend to go with. Just to like be your buffer, because that's what me and Terry do. We if we are super nervous about meeting an actor we totally are in love with and everything, then if we're worried we won't be able to talk to them with ease or anything, then the other one who is not as hardcore of a fan or isn't a fan at all can back them up. But I think it's probably better when you are at least a little bit of a fan, because then you gotta think of something to say. Talk about their other work. I mean, I got lucky, like last year I met Ron Perlman, and I didn't have a lot to say. I saw him on a Charmed episode, and, I've seen some of the movies he's had bit parts in, so I recognized him. I knew who he was, and I knew that he was in the Beauty and the Beast TV series, 80s, I think it was the 80s TV series, so I knew who he was and everything, but I didn't really have much to say to him, but I ended up saying he still looked great. I complimented him, and he really appreciated that, so that was cool, I was able to, BS my way through a conversation with him to help my friend out. And then she kind of was the one, she kind of helped me with Alex Kingston, because I only got, because, you paid for the even though I had VIP, the autograph and the photo op were still kind of separate. They didn't go together. Like last year, the VIPs, the conventions I went to last year and the year before, when I got the VIP, it was the autograph and the photo op went together. So, but this time they were kind of separate. So I had to pick one. So I picked the photo op because I'm in the photo with her. So, as proof, that's how my mom saw it, like proof that I met her and everything, and the autograph is just them signing with a piece of paper, and anyone can, well, not anyone, but people can forge signatures, and it could be one of those ones that they print it on there, they print the signature on there, and then on the photo or whatever, but luckily, Terry had talked to one of the guys running the convention, and standing in line, making sure the line is organized and not chaotic, and no cutsies and all that. She was able to talk to him, because at first I was thinking about Emma Caulfield from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I wanted to try to talk to her. Unfortunately, every time I was available to finally go up to her booth, or we passed her booth, she was already gone. But my friend talked to the guy for me, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna miss out on that opportunity. So he let me get in line and go talk to Alex Kingston. Which, I mean, the only reason why I hesitated is because I felt bad, because those people paid money to get her autograph and talk to her for a few minutes, and I didn't. But even though I paid to get a VIP and everything, I still felt a little guilty. But I did talk to her, and I was able to not only talk to her about Doctor Who, and by the way, I actually referred to her as a companion, because it was just easier to say that. It was the first thing that popped in my head. But, what I'm saying, she was my first of the female characters on the show to meet, and I know I probably could have easily said my first female character, but she corrected me and reminded me that, well, technically, I'm his wife. So, but, I laughed it off and everything, of course, and she said it in a joking kind of way. So, I was able to also mention to her that that my mom loved ER. I don't know if she loved it, but she did enjoy watching the show and everything, and I recognized her from that she was on that show, because I had to watch a couple episodes here and there, but I'm not big on those kind of shows, like doctor shows or, So I was able to tell her that. So it was cool. I got to talk to her for a little bit, and one of the other actors we met actually was riding on the plane with her, I guess. They were on the same plane. So he was like, he came up to the booth to talk to her about the schedule and everything. So that was kind of cool. And I tried to be cool about it, but I did get a little excited. I was like, oh, I just saw you. It's like, but I made sure not to say anything because nothing is weirder and would weird out an actor if you acted like, oh, hi, like they're your friend or something. Not that they aren't friendly, but you guys know what I mean. So, but then so that was my big person I was gonna meet. Because I wanted to save my money for like little souvenirs and stuff. Because every time I go to these conventions, a lot of times I buy a book, of course. And which I bought. Let me show you that. This is one of the books I got. I've been kind of trying to find new types of fantasy to read, and this one's about dragons. This is the first book, and the second book comes out in October, I believe. And the woman at the booth did say, the publisher said that, because we got to talking to her, not just about this, but other stuff too, which is really cool. And she said that it might be in stores, but then it's a limited time, and they won't keep it there forever. So I guess if it gets super popular, it becomes like, like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. Forgive me. So, or like any of Sarah J. Maas's books, then maybe it will stay longer. But since this is more of an indie thing, but I think it will definitely be better than the last books I got, the ones I got last year. Last year was the typical paranormal. No offense to the author, I'm sure she worked hard and did a good job with the book, but I just wasn't into it, and I felt, But this is, and then I also got a really good deal on a series. This is the first book in the series. I'm too lazy to pick them all up. This is the first book in a series. So, and I was able to get it for all 4 books from the series for $30, when normally it's like $40 or $50 for the whole series. So she made a little bit of a deal with me. So that was really cool. This is another dragon book. So I'm a bit on a dragon kick. When to get, let me see if I can, yeah, here. See, I was able to pick them up after all. See, there's 4 books. So I got 5 books, and my mom basically told me last night, because I was going to try not to show her, but at the same time I kind of was excited and wanted to tell her about my experience and everything, and to show her my purchases and all that, and she said, basically she told me I was on a book buying hiatus for at least 2 months. So at least I can't, so I'm not buying any books. If I ask to go to books night, I will, just to get out of the house, then maybe I will get a Funko Pop instead. Because I want to get Tyrion from the Game of Thrones, from Song of Ice and Fire. I want to get a Tyrion Funko Pop. And I also need to get like either a Drusilla, a Buffy, or Willow for Spike. Which, by the way, this is a non-canon ship, but it's not one in existence, I don't think. But I kind of ship Willow and Spike. I can see that happening. Especially because of that scene when he like tries to bite her and he can't, and he can't do it because he's been made impotent, with a chip in his head. There's a couple scenes between Spike and, or like the scene when he's dealing with his breakup with Drusilla because she cheated on him with the Chaos Demon, and he gets Willow because she's just starting to become a witch, so he gets her to make that potion for him, or not potion, do a love spell. He tries to get her to do the love spell, and he kidnaps her and everything. So there are a couple of moments where I see that the two of them kind of have chemistry. So occasionally I do ship some non-canon, but that's very rare. So let's see okay, let me tell you the rest. Okay, so Alice Kingston was my particular specific one. And then Terry met Tara Strong, who's like known for one of the My Little Pony characters, and she plays the voice of Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls. And she met a couple of Sailor Moon voice people for her friend, for our friend. I'm sort of friends with her too, but we're not super close. But the big ones, other than Alice Kingston were, well, first we met Tony Todd, who is known for Candyman, an old 80s horror film. That don't let your kids watch it. It's very psychological and scary. It's not, apparently there were some people that their kids, when they were like 3, they watched that movie. And Tony Todd was like, okay, we didn't make the movie for kids. So why, But at least the movie did its job and really just freaked you out and made an impression. It's not like a slasher movie. It's more of a, like, it's much more deeper than that. Than a typical slasher movie like Scream or Know What You Did Last Summer, where there's just some killer wanting revenge or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't like slasher movies. I had a VHS copy of I Know What You Did Last Summer because I had told my dad I wanted more horror movies at the time, and he got me that one. Which at the time I showed the appropriate amount of excitement, but afterwards I've just come to realize I am not into those kind of movies. They kind of bore me. Okay, that's a totally different topic. So we met Tony. And he's also for you Trekkie fans, he was on. I think it was Deep Space Nine. I don't know if he was ever introduced in Next Generation, but I believe he's Worf's brother, or like his half brother or something. That's what Terry told me, because she's a huge Trekkie, and I think after this weekend, I am more into giving it more of a chance, because I did try to watch it once, and I watched a few episodes, like a season of episode, but I just couldn't get into it at the time. And it was also early morning when I just woke up, so but now I'm starting to be more converted. But I'll get to that reason in a minute. But Tony Todd he was really cool and very easygoing guy, and he's very personable, and he's really tall, by the way. He's like 6 feet something. And actually, when we took the photo, my Terry was playing Catwoman, so she had that little fake, that whip and all that stuff, and she actually asked him if she could kind of wrap it around him in the photo op. So she just put it around, and he was cool with it. I mean, I think at first he was like, okay, a little surprised, but as long as she didn't hurt him or anything, so she wrapped it. Which, let me show you that. Oh wait, I don't think I had a copy of that one. Never mind. I don't know if I have a copy of that one. Let me see if I do. Wait, no, don't actually. No, I know I don't have a copy. I have a copy of the person I wanted to see that I went there for originally, and then I have a copy of another person, which I will get to that person in a little bit. So this was he was just really cool, it was, and he admitted that, because he asked me about acting and everything, because I admitted I did a little bit of acting in high school and everything, but, I also said that my sister and my dad are more of the actors in the family and the performers, and I said I was a very shy person, and he actually admitted that he is very shy as well, and so that was kind of cool. It's funny, it was Terry who was excited. I mean, not that, because I recognized him and everything, and it was cool to meet him, because any of them is cool. Even some of the ones that I'm not as into, I mean, I have to be, like, totally not into them at all for me not to care to meet him. Like Jay and Silent Bob were there, and I just had no interest whatsoever. But I had a little interest in Tony Todd, and she did get me to watch that movie. Because I was lucky because it was on TV one time, like on Sci-Fi or Chiller or something, and so I watched it a little bit. So I was familiar with him, so I was able to talk to him, and I actually dominated the conversation. Like, Terry was the one who was super excited and wanted to talk to him, and I just kept talking, and that's how it was with the other two guys. So, Trekkies, if there's any Trekkies who watch any of my videos, I met LeVar Burton and Brent Spiner, also at this convention. That was totally awesome. Like, even for someone who's not is not even really a Trekkie, that was still awesome, because LeVar Burton is also, he's really rainbow guy. And a lot of the kids who grew up in the 80s and 90s I am sure, are very familiar with Reading Rainbow. And that was, I remember, I don't remember enough to cite specific episodes, but I do remember growing up and watching it when I would channel surf and get to PBS, like watching like Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow, Lamb Chops, Thomas and Friends, the original Thomas series, because now they have new series and all that, but where you go between the real world and Thomas's world. I remember reading, and it was so cool. And I like his voice. He's a good reading voice. It's very friendly, but he's a little, from the impression Terry gave me, he was a little standoffish. Like, and unfortunately, because I wasn't there to be her buffer, she was a little caught off guard when he asked her what she did for a living. So I remember she was a little caught off guard there, but she was and I feel bad because I wasn't there to talk to him, because I'm sure with me there, and the same with if she hadn't been there for when I was talking to Alex Kingston, I would be a little more. Not that I definitely was really, really nervous, but it helped having her there. And I think it probably helps her when I'm with her, because I'm not a huge hardcore fan of an actor, but I'm familiar with them, or I'm a fan on some level, then I can talk to them a little more easily. But I'm still nervous and butterflies and all that. And that's how it was with LeVar Burton actually we didn't get to talk to him. She talked to him. And then we got the picture with him, the photo op, which is really cool. But unfortunately with those photo ops, they go by so quick, you can't really talk to them, But it didn't, and I remember, there has been times, and it was the same at this convention, where I was I guess I looked confused or whatever when I looked at them, and they had to remind me, okay, go that way, you gotta go, or maybe, or it's that way, to leave and stuff. But that was cool. But it was still cool. And now that one, I didn't ask for a copy of the photo op of LeVar Burton, because I like him and everything, but it wasn't one that I had to have a copy of the photo. But that was cool. So that one in the Tony Todd one, I don't have copies of those photos, because she's more of the fan of them. But then I met Brett Spiner, who was my favorite. Next to Alex Kingston, he was my favorite person that I met at this convention. He is so personable and so funny and outrageous and totally cool, and we both felt very comfortable with him. I was still nervous, but at the same time, I felt really comfortable. And what was probably helped is that I was able to talk to him about something other than Star Trek and dated. Because like I said, I'm not really a Trekkie at the moment. I'm starting to be, but it's more like, it's getting to the point where I'm kind of more obsessed with him as an actor than his character Data in the show. But it was just so cool to meet. He was so nice and friendly, and he made me feel like, I remember it was my first time going up at a panel, actually going up to the microphone and asking a question, because I've never done that before. I always I think about it, but I never do it. I'm too chicken. But Terry was like, but why don't we both ask him a question? Because I had thought it, because I usually think about questions that I could ask if I ever met them, and I ever got the courage to go up there. So I actually did this time, which was really cool. Terry asked about the question I thought, because it was actually a question I thought about, where she was like, what would be, your holodeck, if you had a holodeck? If you're familiar with the Trekkie world, the Star Trek world, then there, in Next Generation, I don't know if it's in the others, but Next Generation, there's the holodeck, which is a simulator where it can make, you can create whatever in a world and create characters and stuff. And so she asked him about that, and then I got to ask. So I decided, because I didn't want to ask about Star Trek, because everybody would ask him about Star Trek and Data. Although I did have a question about that, other than the holodeck one I came up with, where I asked him what his favorite musical that he was in, and lucky me, he actually mentioned 1776 was one of his favorites. And if you are not familiar, that is a musical about, the people creating the Declaration. It was a musical about them creating the Declaration of Independence and the whole Revolutionary War, where America was at war with, it wasn't America at the time, it was the colonies, the 13 colonies. They were basically at war with Britain, because Britain owned us, essentially, and we and it's basically about that, and it's a good and it's very funny musical. It's very dry humor, and there's a lot of talking. So that's the hard part, is that there's a lot of conversations going on and debates and stuff. So that can get kind of dry and boring at times, but I still love the musical. And he was in the 1998, I think it was 1998 revival of the musical, where he played John Adams. So because him and William Daniels played John Adams, I kind of had a little fascination with John Adams. I even have the biography written by the same guy who wrote the 1776 novel, which the play is not based off of that, but the guy, David something, I think his name is, not his last name isn't something, but I can't remember his actual last name. But he wrote, 1776, which is about that time period in American history, and he also wrote biography on John Adams. So I've been kind of fascinated with John Adams, and I would love to see that there's that series, which I think it is on Netflix. I think I saw it on there, where Paul Giamatti plays John Adams, and it's like a mini series kind of thing. So I might look for that on Netflix or Hulu. Because I really want to watch that, because I've always been interested. And I remember years ago, when I first started middle school, there was an assignment where we each picked a historical figure to be, and we would talk about it. And I remember I actually picked Abigail Adams, but and I think that's probably around the time I first discovered the musical 1776. But anyway, now the songs in Brent's version are basically playing in my head constantly. Especially my favorite song, which is Anybody There. It's at the end, it's like the last song that John Adams sings. Like, it's basically about him being like, does anybody care about what I care about? Does anybody realize how this is important, that we need to break free from America? Break free from Britain, and we need to fight for it. And I see this so much, and why doesn't anybody see what I see, essentially? That's what the song is about. I like that one, in Pill, Twiddle, and Resolve. I like that one. But anyway, so we met Brent, and he was totally awesome, and I have such mixed feelings about this moment, but when I met him, I was like, he started singing the song Till There Was You from Music Man, the little duet between Marion the librarian and Harold Hill, the little love duet, because, she has realized her feelings and everything for him, that she's in love with him, and he started singing that song. And I tried to sing with him, but I got the lyrics a little mixed up, and my voice isn't that great. I can't really sing. I probably could have taken singing lessons at some point in my life, but I never got around to doing it. Actually, my sister's middle school chorus teacher at the time was the one who offered, because we remained friends with her, and she went to the high school where a lot of my sister's friends went to be the chorus teacher there. And she offered to teach me how to sing, but I never got around to pursuing it seriously or anything. But I think it was just the fact that, he realized I was familiar with the material and stuff, and then I sang with him a little bit, even though it was really bad. So I definitely have mixed feelings about it. But anyway, it was just so cool to meet him, and I even got a hug, because, Terry asked for a hug, and then I was like, well, I may as well give you a hug, too. And, although later, on Sunday when we left, we met the guy, one of the photographers in the elevator, and he had been spending time all day with Brent and everything, and apparently he's not a hugger, or not a hugger, he just doesn't like being touched. So we got lucky there. He didn't mind us, and maybe it's because he's a fan, he's a fans actor, he appreciates and loves fans, and appreciates them for what they do for him, so maybe he was willing to give us, he didn't want to say no to us. And another thing that was great about him is that we were late to the photo op session, and the workers tried to catch up because he had already left, and it seemed like they hadn't, and that we would just have to wait until the next day, and we were willing. We were like, okay, fine, we'll just wait until the next day. And just as we were about to leave, one of the workers showed up, one came back and was like, oh, actually, we caught him, and he came back. So it was really sweet. And he recognized us, because we were both Belle. I was the peasant Belle from Closer to the Disney animated version, and she was Belle from Once Upon a Time in the, in the gold dress. That was before we stopped watching the show. So he recognizes, he was like, come on, Bells. But it was just, and he also, another thing he mentioned was Out to Sea, which is one of my favorite movies, with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, and Brent plays, like, the cruise director, like, basically, Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon's characters end up on this cruise as dance host and everything, and, like, Brent's character is that typical bossy, annoying character that, it's very funny at the same time. And I just realized I just figured out last night that he used an English accent, a British accent in the movie. And it's funny because he is a Southern boy. He's from Texas. And he said, and I've noticed over the years, like, I asked one time someone, why do they think that British actors are always playing Southern characters? And I think someone explained it that the Southern accent and the British accent kind of have a similar intonation. And that might be why Terry is, when she speaks sometimes, strangers mistake her as someone from England. I guess because maybe she sounds British at times. And I admit that there are some words that she says that sound British. But she's also from the South originally. She's from, like, Kentucky or Tennessee or somewhere. I think Kentucky. So she's also kind of a Southern girl. I mean, then now I have a little bit of Southern in me, and I'm officially living in the Carolinas. Well, I have a little bit of Southern in me too. So, but since then, I have been basically watching all these clips, trying to watch clips from those two movies. And I listened to him sing, and, like, he has a sexy voice. I mean, I keep playing the one where he's singing the song Sway, the one, sway with me, way, all the dancers may be on the floor, but dear, my eyes will see only you have that magic technique, when we sway, I go weak. That one, that was a bad version of it, that was a really horrible version, but yeah, that one, I love his version of that song. And I think that was, I want to say it's from Out to Sea, because he does sing that song Out to Sea, and so I'm wondering if maybe they pre-recorded a CD, because there's obviously music in there. They probably pre-recorded it, and of course, the pre-recorded version might be a little different than the one that's in the movie. Plus, in the movie, you're kind of focusing on the fact that he's performing for, Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon's character, not performing for them, but he's more in the background. Well, you're mostly focusing on those two guys. And I love that movie because it's so sweet, because it's about these older people, these older gentlemen, and that they can find love again, because that's basically, it's a romantic comedy, essentially. They find romance, and it's just really sweet. And I also wanted to ask Brent, how did it feel getting the slip from Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, because they gave him trouble. But that was just that. But I'm glad I was able to talk to him about something other than Star Trek, and I'm sure he appreciates that, because if you play a character that becomes iconic, it's like you're stuck with it. And yes, you appreciate what it did for you, but then at the same time, you can understand where, after a while, they want to be known for other things. Like, the worst thing that could happen to a Hollywood actor, is getting typecast. I mean, now, some people are comfortable with it, and okay with it, and cool with it. That's fine if you are, but my favorite actors are the ones that have a variety of roles and stuff. I'm sharing my chair with Rascal, my doggy, my little beagle. He's so cute. Okay, so let me show you what else I got. Okay, so I have Hermione in her pink dress, which actually in the book, Hermione dressed as Periwinkle, I believe. But I had to get Ron, and he's not the first, it's like, Ron is like, I love his character, but it's not the first Funko Pop it's not the first one I would go to buy, but I did buy him this time at the convention, so that Hermione, because I needed to buy someone for Hermione, because, I mean, although she was hanging out with Spike, but So I got him. I got Ron from the convention. It was like $9. And then I finally got my first Ravenclaw, my first Hogwarts house item, which is a merch, which is the Ravenclaw, because it was either this or a necklace. And I don't wear necklaces that often, especially since I have trouble with the little clasp. So I got this mug, and I felt really bad because I was like, I asked the woman, why are the mugs much more cheaper than the necklaces? And and she was like, well, it's a lot harder to do make the necklaces and because it had like quotes and stuff and all the necklaces. So I feel really bad because of course it's more expensive because it takes a lot more time to work on on the necklaces rather than this. So this has the Ravenclaw emblem and everything, and then it has the words, wise, clever, witty, intelligent, and logical. So my first, I think I'm going to mostly use it as a pen and pencil holder, but I might also use it for, to drink stuff, but so this, let's see if there's anything here I need to show you. No, nothing there you need to see. Okay, so I did get a tote bag, because I was a VIP, and a poster. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might end up throwing this away, because it's cool and all, but I'm like, I don't really need it. I guess, although I could, put it in a frame and have a wall of all my convention stuff, but, and then it came with a folder to put your autographs in, they gave us, and then here are my photo ops. So, I got 3 for $10, so I got an extra of these little things that you can put your photos in. Okay, well, never mind, I won't worry about that, showing you that, because you won't care, but, here I got, this is my Alice Kingston one, which actually, my eyes look good in that picture. My smile still, I'm a little iffy. I'm still a little iffy about the smile, but it still was really good, and then, here's Brent Spiner. Fortunately, I don't care, even though he's in his 60s and has the white hair. That man is still good, still attractive to me. Maybe that's because we got to know him and everything, but I told Terry that he reminds me of that eccentric uncle, that crazy kooky uncle or grandfather figure that they're lovable and everything. Unfortunately, the strap of my belt dress is kind of sliding down and everything, and like I said, I don't like my eyes in this because I look a little crazy in there. But I got a copy of it. So let's see. Like I said, this is. You would think I would be more excited about Alex. Not that I'm not excited about Alex. Not that I wasn't happy and it was totally awesome. But this is the one I'm obsessed. Meeting Brent is my obsession, And maybe if he ever came back to convention, I would definitely try to get his autograph to sign this photo. Or this photo. I don't know. Granted. So, I might do that. Be like, I met you last year, so I was wondering if you could sign this. Or I might just get another, I just might have 2 copies, just different costumes. But he actually knew we were Disney Princess, since he just didn't know which Disney Princess. But it was just so cool meeting him and everything. So that's all I really wanted to talk about. And, we met a lot of people. We talked to people. If it's just me and Terry, then I'm good. But if my parents are there, then I almost hide behind them. I become their shadow. And I hide behind their shadow and stuff. Because it's easy to do that for me. And now I'm just hoping that I can go to Y'all Fest in South Carolina next year. At the end of fall of this year in November. I'm really hoping to do that. And get some of my first signed books. That will be totally awesome. So that was my convention experience. It was so much fun. And I went to 2 I went to a lot of I went to not as many panels, but I went to panels, a few panels, and there was like two parties I went to, like a VIP karaoke party I went to on Friday night, and then I went to the villains comic book villains party, which was it was more like a dance thing. There wasn't any real. It was like the techno music and stuff, and typical teenager stuff, but not something a nerd can totally get into, or like I guess maybe but well maybe it's just me and Terry, but I just couldn't. I'm not into the whole freak dancing and like the whole making all those cool crazy moves because I'm just I still have a hard time getting into it takes me a while to get into the dance. I have to be really on an exciting high to get into the dance and stuff, which actually, yeah, at conventions, yeah, I'm kind of on a high anyway, so, the convention it was so much fun, and, I think Terry has a point. I think it was bigger than our previous conventions, because we've gone to Wizard World, and we gone to AwesomeCon twice, Wizard World once, and then we've gone to Supercon, which we might do again next year, or I might go to a convention in Florida, but who knows? But like I said, I'm now focused on hoping that I can go to Y'all Fest. In August is when the tickets will go on sale. So hopefully I can I'll talk to my parents about it. So anyway, hopefully this video is not too long, or I might have to redo it. But that was my Supercon experience. That was totally awesome. And, if you're into TV shows, like pop culture TV shows like Doctor Who, the comic books, a Trekkie, which there were a lot of Trekkies there, by the way. A lot of people in the Starfleet uniforms and stuff. Or if you're like a Whovian, or if you're a Harry Potter fan, or any of those kind of fandoms, that I recommend experiencing a convention. It's not cheap, but still, it's a well worth it. So that's it, and goodbye.